Welcome to another episode of With Love Mama the podcast. Today we have another birth story guest joining us, and I'm really looking forward to this episode because it's really like we're going to be really anchoring in on like motherly instinct that begins before you even become a mother,
Yeah,
before you actually
yeah,
enter maternity. So, welcoming Victoria. How are you?
yeah. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm super excited. We're finally sitting down and doing this episode after we've had to
I
reschedule a
know.
little
And
bit.
thank you. Oh, honestly, I think just life comes like in the way too much sometimes. But us mums are very busy.
Yes, but we're still here. We're here and we're going to
We're
get it
here.
done.
We're here. We're just here. I think we just booked it last night. Actually, I was like, do you know what? I think I'm free. Yeah.
Literally, it's
And it's the
perfect.
spontaneous times when I feel like you're more free than when you actually book the time. That's how I feel. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. And I think you like can talk to things a bit easier because you haven't been, going in your head like, oh my God, it's tomorrow. It was kind of like,
I know.
nope, it's just
Then
tomorrow.
you stuff up and then you don't remember anything. So hopefully I remember most of it because I didn't really. I'm not gonna say rehearse because I'm just like, who am I? But yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to begin this episode by getting into Violet's birth. So Violet was
Yeah.
your firstborn. And when you first think back to the pregnancy, what stands out mostly in your body and memory when you're thinking back to that pregnancy?
Pregnancy, like the whole pregnancy for me, it went really well. I had no issues only until leading up to the end because I was always told, I think it was two I was about 26 weeks when you do the 3D scan. And I did two 3D scans. So I did one with my mother-in-law because she wasn't available with my mum at the time to do a scan. So I was like, all right, I'll take you as well for the second one. And at both 3D scans, I was told that the baby was breech. They were like, look, we're not really meant to, like, we're not experts in this field, but we're going to say that it, like, the baby's breech, you know?
Mhm.
I'm like, okay. So then when I went up to my midwife appointment, I was always saying, baby's breech, something doesn't feel right. Can you check? And every single midwife and doctor told me they just like felt and was
Mhm.
like I call it the educated guess, and they just said no, this is the bum, this is the head, she's perfect, and she wasn't. She was breached the whole 9 months, I'm pretty sure. And
Isn't
so
that
she came,
crazy?
yeah,
Like,
it's
and you
crazy.
were
'Cause I'm
you
just
were
like,
also trying to communicate
yeah.
that, and it just could have just gone for peace of mind, go have an ultrasound.
100%. And just
Yeah.
what I think being a first time mum, you rely on the trust and them being in your kind of favor of like, this is like we're here to look after you and things like that. So I'm just like, okay, first time mum, I put my full trust in you. But then when I'm hearing that with people that are from the 3D scan, I'm like, well, something's not right. And thankfully I had my partner there because at that time I couldn't advocate for myself because maybe I was shy, maybe I didn't know what was going on. So if we just revert back a little bit with the scans that I was doing, he was always saying, what's that mass in the scan? And they were like, no, it's nothing, nothing. Nothing to worry about, nothing to worry about, all that sort of stuff. Turned out to be a 10 centimeter cyst on my ovary. So that was one of the major ones. So when I went in for my very last scan, I was 37. Well, my last midwife meeting, sorry, I was 37 weeks, I think. My partner was like, look, Vic's been up all night. She's a bit worried. Can you just double check what's going on? And the doctor was like, let me just feel first. So she was like, 100%, this is the head down there and the bum's here. And he's like, can you just, for her peace of mind, just have a look? She pulled out the scanner and she was breech. And that's what made me go. I started crying because I was like, hang on. I got really emotional because I was like, oh my God, like I felt bad for my own baby. Like I felt like I let my baby down because I was like, hang on, I could have advocated for my little girl
Mhm.
because she in the end she came out and she had hip dysplasia from that reason. So she had to
Yeah.
wear like the brace for like 2 years and that, and just seeing my baby in that distress, especially in Australia with the heat and stuff like that, that was quite hard as well. Like, so that made me super emotional. So I was like, oh my God, why didn't I trust myself? But I think at the time you're meant to trust the industry and all that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? So it's hard. That's
They're the
it.
professionals in the field. So, especially that first time, you're going into it pretty uneducated unless you're doing quite a lot of research and taking a lot of time to understand what is going on. And I think as well, it's very easy, and I've heard this through a lot of the birth stories that I've had on this podcast, is a lot of the time when it's your first time, they do kind of put themselves on that pedestal of we're the professional, we know best, rather than
Yeah.
trusting, okay, this mum, although it's her first time experiencing this, is actually having some concerns. So
Yeah.
I feel like not being heard in that would have felt, like you said, you got super emotional. It would have just
I
felt
did. I was just like,
terrible.
hang on. So I was right the whole time, and you guys didn't really want to hear me out because you thought that you knew. And again, I put my trust in you. But then when the doctor actually told me, I'm not sure if she was meant to disclose this, but she was like, well, not every midwife's actually passed out to do this, like for the scan. And I'm like, well, why not? Because that's really important. And
Hmm.
I think like I hate to give mums advice because it's always, you don't need to hear it all the time because you're always hearing things from like the older generation or anyone like do this, do that. But if I was to say anything, just be like, trust your instincts because you know your body more than anyone else. No
Hmm.
one else knows your body. They might think, oh, but you've no, it doesn't matter. Like, you know how you feel, you know what's wrong with your baby. Even if you think it could be the slightest overreaction, who cares? I'd
Hmm.
rather check. Like no one that I know now, I wish I'd just gone back and been a bit more braver.
Hmm.
But it's scary. It is scary to kind of like push the back, like, push that and go, no, I want that. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you just can't advocate for yourself because you just feel like you're going to get nowhere. Because I had roadblocks all the time.
Well,
So
exactly. It's extremely exhausting. You're a beginner in the field, really.
yeah.
Like that's how you're
Hmm.
made to feel, and you are told to trust in the professionals. So
Yeah.
you were just really doing what you thought was the right thing, and
Yeah. Exactly.
that's completely
Yeah.
fine. But you have learned so much from that, and I'm sure
Yeah.
once we get into your pregnancy with your second, we can sort
Yeah.
of touch on that again because although that's like terrible that that happened, and especially with breech, like you can do so much through your pregnancy to try and flip your baby,
Yeah.
and there's so many
100%.
different things, but you
Yeah.
were kind of left to the last moment, and that is entirely not your fault. You were
No.
in the best way
Yeah.
possible asking for support
Yeah.
in that, but I just
Yeah.
think that's like a really powerful message, like you said.
and
You
and
always have.
that's it. And it's crazy because I feel like in that last check the doctor did as well, like when my partner pushed for it, because like I'm so grateful that he was there like with me because he's 5'0", so he wasn't always there, and he was there. He just saw my emotions, but I was. They actually she was scanning there, and he goes, look, there's that dark mass again. Like, I want to know what it is. And she goes, oh well, that's a cyst. Straight away, boom, that's a cyst. And I'm like, and she goes, well, we're not going to be able to turn you because you're 37 weeks, like try and turn the baby because that's already like a risk as it is trying to turn a baby that far along.
Hmm.
But it said also it's a 10 centimeter cyst, so you'd have to go get it taken out in the C-section. So you've got no choice but to have a C-section. At the time, I was like, oh my God, I've had my, like, I wanted to have a natural birth. I've had that all taken away from me. Because in my mind, I'm like, no, this is not what I wanted. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's just gone complete, like, it's just retracted. And I'm like, this is not right. But I think for the safety of of Violet and me, like, I had to get it done because my mum had a cyst actually burst. So my mum had ovarian cyst and it burst and she went into emergency and stuff like that with because my mum's had 7 kids. So yeah, so it was just that. So lucky they did do that last scan and Ben pushed for it and stuff like that. So very grateful that having someone there to advocate if you feel like you can't, even if it's a support person. That's how I feel like if you feel like you can't talk for yourself, which is very common, and people should never feel like crap if they can't, and that's
Hmm.
just normal, like, and I've worked in FIFO and like management and stuff like that, and I see so many people come through and I'm like, I was like that.
Mm.
And then you grow, you know what I mean, like you grow, you get that courage and stuff like that, but
And
everyone starts that way.
I also think becoming a mother is the biggest initiation into dropping the people pleaser within you because
100%.
it's you don't really have much of a choice but to back yourself in a lot of moments in motherhood.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
I definitely think that is very supportive for people who, maybe it is your first time and you're struggling with all of that and it's like just know like you said, have a support person do it to begin with, but you actually
Yeah,
just learn. It's like a primal part of being a
yeah.
mother that you just begin to be able to do it.
100%, 100%. And that's why I'm just like, and then when obviously I got pregnant with Cooper, it was a whole new story from there. But yeah,
Of
yeah,
course. So you've just mentioned you ended up having a scheduled Caesar due
yeah.
to the 10 centimeter cyst and baby being breech. How did that feel walking into a scheduled Caesar, especially when you had those expectations of having a natural birth and all of those stories probably there around
Yeah.
having a Caesar?
So I think it was initial shock because I was actually booked in the next day because I was like 37 weeks and like 6 days, something like that. They were like, we need you in tomorrow. But I'm just nothing. And I think it was initial shock. Obviously, I cried a little bit. I'm like, this is not what I wanted. Again, having someone there to kind of go, it's actually okay. No matter what birth you do, it's okay. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? As long as your baby comes out healthy and fine, that's all that matters. And then you come out healthy and fine. That's all that matters. So I think I kind of got over that hurdle. That was the first hurdle. And then, so my main thing is I hate being put to sleep.
Mm.
So that's my biggest fear. I hyperventilate. I go into one. I'm one of those ones. Just I can't. So I just said to them, I'm like, I just hope it doesn't come to that.
Hmm.
But I was like, I hope it doesn't come to that. But they were like, no, it should be fine, because obviously there's a certain time that the anaesthetist gives you, obviously, or gives the surgeon to take the baby out. I think it's like 45 minutes, like what I was hearing. But then obviously they had to take the cyst out at the same time, so I think that took longer. So unfortunately, I felt the anesthesia wear off, and I could feel them cutting. And that's not for it. Like, again, I don't want to scare anyone, because this is not, everyone's different, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, and it's just unfortunate. And then that's when, again, I went into that last thing I remember, which again was a bit tragic, but it was just a bit crap, is I'm like hyperventilating on the table, like, stop, I can feel you. They're like, no, you can't. I'm like, I started crying, and I was like, like like this. And they just were like, Ben, get out. And then they just put a mask on me. And I think
Hmm.
that was just the fear, like, you know what I mean? And I just
Yeah.
thought there was no like, calm down, we got you. It was just, then I woke up, and I woke up and I cried, because I think my emotions going in and then coming back out was a bit crap. Like, they did take care of me afterwards, but at the same time, it's like, there's ways to go around it.
Hmm.
Every mum is sensitive, you know what I mean? It's your first time having a baby, like, I get it that they're doing it every day, but that doesn't mean that you've got to just be like not emotionally supportive towards that mum, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It doesn't take away from how huge the identity shift is for each and every individual woman
Yeah.
walking
Yeah.
through the hospital doors. Like you said, they're doing it
Exactly.
every day, but this was your first time. You're not doing it
Exactly.
every day.
Yeah.
It's a huge, and in your circumstance, that's actually a very huge
Mm.
emotional and physical, spiritual, all of the things
Yeah.
experience for a woman to face, and to
Yeah.
just as well as blending that with your already fear of getting put to sleep.
Yeah.
That's a lot on the body. That is a lot.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I'd love to just like shift from how that felt so traumatic for you, but just to how did you feel when you did wake up and you knew that Violet was here safely after all of that?
um I think after all of that, I obviously woke up and I was like really emotional. I had my little cry. And when I saw Ben, he had his shirt off and he was doing skin to skin with her, and I cried, cried again. I was like, ah, you know what I mean? Like, I was just full of emotions, but I just saw that and I was like, everything got wiped away for that second, because there was our baby.
Hmm.
And when I saw Ben cry, that was the next thing. Oh
Hmm.
my God. Like, that just like, yeah, he was just like, you did so well. He came over next to me. He's like, yeah, he was so good, because sometimes, they just throw the baby on you and you don't know how you're going to react. It's like, Ben was like, do you want her? He was so calming and stuff like this. Again, it was amazing. I still have it in my mind, everything that happened. But I think when I woke up and saw her, I was like, we're okay.
Yeah.
That's
And
how I saw it. I was like, we're okay. It was shit, but we're okay.
and do you think that the whole experience shifted your relationship with trust, like within yourself, your body, and even the medical system?
100%. I just think that I now know that my initiative, and it's there. Everyone thinks, oh no. I'm like, no, if you've got a feeling, your body gives you that.
So let's bring the conversation now to falling pregnant with Cooper, and I'd love to ask, like, what parts of your birth with Violet do you think was still living in your body and mind when you found out you were pregnant with him?
I think it did. I think with all my scans, I basically said to them, I want you to check for any mass. And I was asking the questions through the scan. I think they're called significers. I
Mhm.
struggle with that word. I don't know with the ladies. So I'm always like in there. I know they can't give you a lot of answers until they actually give you the report to the doctor. But I'm like, can you just make sure there's cysts and things like that? If you see any cysts, can you please like rule that out and just put that as a doctor? And then also if Cooper's breech, that's what I need to know. I need to know if he's breech. And then my main concerns, and every single scan, I ask that. I don't care if I'm annoying. I'm like, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want a detailed report. I was like, I'm sorry if I'm a bit too much, but I think I just want to make sure that even though Violet's okay now, but no baby should have to go through that because the system let you down in that aspect. So
Did you notice yourself as well going into this pregnancy carrying any like hopes around like your actual birthing experience?
I think with mine was I really wanted a natural birth, because again, how I see it is I think I felt pressure from society as well, that natural birth versus C-section like is like massively different, and I understand that. But people are always saying, like, someone said to me, oh, it's okay, you still gave birth, like, kind of like
Mm.
um like talking down to you and stuff like that, which I find quite rude. Like it makes people that have C-section feel like they didn't give birth and stuff like that. So I feel like there's a lot of pressure on mums to always give natural birth, and if their bodies can't allow it, then they're not good enough. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt. And I was like, well, no, I want to force myself to go natural. And I was one of those mums that I'm reading it on Facebook, I'm seeing it on social media that, okay, this is good. But at the same time, there's so many of mums, like one myself, like that suffer from like ovarian cysts that sometimes you might not be able to, and
Yeah.
things like that. And that's okay. But yeah, I think like everyone puts so much pressure on this is how it has to be, and you didn't give birth if you didn't, like, if you know what I mean.
Of
Um,
course, yeah. There's a huge
so
stigma
yeah,
around. There's a
there
huge
is.
stigma around cesarean section, and I think we're lucky in a sense to have the medical system we have in this day and
Yeah.
age. Because if you go way back when pregnancies weren't having monitored in that
Oh,
way, that would
a
have
lot
been
of
a
us wouldn't be
very
here.
that would have
Yeah,
been a very high
100%.
risk. Exactly right. So I
Yeah.
think the stigma is definitely shifting, although I completely understand in that the pressure that there still is
Mm.
of just the way that your baby is birthed.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you are a warrior to me, no matter what you do. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like I love mum. So one of my good friends, she's going to do a home birth, and I think that's absolutely magical. I would love to do that, but I think with my body, it wouldn't let me because unfortunately with Cooper, I had two more cysts grow.
Hmm.
So I just knew that I would be safer. Like again, you know your body. Everyone knows their own body. If you feel like your body can do it, absolutely amazing. You're a warrior if you can do that. You're also a warrior if you have to go to the hospital or C-sections and things like that. So yeah, so when I hear like stories of like home birth, I think that's amazing because that's something that I've always wanted to do, especially a one in the bath and stuff.
Mm.
That was my dream. But again, things happen, you
Yeah.
know but I still gave birth naturally, but it was an induced natural birth with the balloon,
Mm.
and that didn't really work, so they then had to break my water. Honestly, I literally, the mum brain today is not working with me.
It's
um
okay. Let's touch on that. So labor unfolded over days in hospital with Cooper.
yeah, so I started on Wednesday in labor, and I it was 2 days
Yeah. And what was
of
happening for
going
you
to labor.
emotionally through that time?
Um, well, I was always, because again, I've never experienced natural birth, so I've always thinking I'm pushing this thing out of my vagina, all this sort of stuff, and I didn't really think that the pain of just the contractions would be worse than giving birth, but they are.
Mm.
So actually giving birth naturally with the contractions is way worse than it's just coming out. That's in my experience,
Mm.
because I just felt like it was like barley belly and gastro all in one. And I was like, mate,
Oh
this
my
is,
gosh, that is exactly how I
yeah,
describe them.
yeah,
Whenever people ask me, like, what do contractions feel like? I'm like, honestly, it felt like I ate 10-day-old Chinese and I had to go to the
yeah.
toilet.
And it just kept coming, and you had no control. Every 2 minutes, you couldn't take gastro stop. You can't take this, you can't take that. And I'm like, mate. And again, I'm such short tempered as well, Ginger. Um, and my partner's like rubbing my back. I'm like, get off me. But again, it was amazing. It was so painful, but I would love to experience it again, just to birth Cooper the way I did,
Yeah.
because I'm glad I got that opportunity. But at the same time, any opportunity to be able to have like a healthy baby come naturally or C-section is amazing.
Yeah. So I do remember reading in your birth story that they mentioned giving you an episiotomy.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when talk me through that, did you feel fully informed in that moment?
I did. They didn't let me know that there was a training midwife, which again at the time is, in my mind right now, it's not okay
No,
because
that
you're
is
meant to
not
be
okay.
informed. But then also at the time you're pushing, you're in pain. Nothing else really matters. So like he's fully dilated, you're pushing, he's stuck. But I also want to kind of touch base on the pushing. So in my experience, I even said to my partner the other day, how do you know which way to push? How do you know how to push? How do you know what you're doing? Was I pushing in the right way? Because they just kept saying, push this way. And I'm like, hang on, but can you tell me what sort of way to push? Because there is actually ways to push that will actually help the like vaginal canal, like kind of go into like um full wave. You know what I mean? Can't use my words today, but yeah. And I was like, but I can't push properly. Can you show? Like, tell me. Like, I'm literally had my legs up. I was like in a frog position. I've tried every way, but then in the end, I gave birth to him on my back.
Hmm.
But before that, they had to give me the like a snip down there, and so they put in the what's it called?
Like the anesthetic?
Anesthetic. Yep, thank you. Anesthetic, and they put it in and they cut it the next second. So they didn't give time to. So what they did was, and again, I'm looking at the student midwife, and she's under pressure by the mature midwife, like the trained midwife, and she's like, just cut, like, pushing her. But I also felt sorry for her. I'm like, what's going on? Because I could see she was scared and she's like shaking. And I'm like, okay, hopefully it's okay. And when she cut, I jumped back. And obviously, because you would, it was so painful. And then the like mature midwife said to me, why did you do that? You've just made yourself worse. I'm like, because I've literally felt the pain. I'm halfway pushing with this boy coming out of me and I felt something cut. And she's like, oh, you shouldn't have felt that. And then like I'm just sitting there, and then Ben's pretty good with advocating for me. I was like, it's right, because obviously there's so much happening.
Mm.
And I'm like, this is shit. I was like, I just want him out of me. Come on, because this is actually getting a bit much now. Because he was £10.
Hmm.
So he was stuck. But again, I think if I knew the right way to push and the correct kind of like form to use, I think I wouldn't have needed that.
Hmm. Yep.
Because I think you can do it naturally. And I also think that tearing is better.
Your body tearing, obviously, we can have from first to fourth degree tear, but your body will always tear where it needs to tear, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, which will
Yeah.
support your baby to move down and out. Whereas an episiotomy
Yeah.
can be, it's an intervention. So, touching back just on all of that, you then had your baby boy and it was beautiful. Although there was trauma to that birth as well. What do you
Yeah.
think birthing, having a VBAC and just that whole experience, what did that teach you that your first one couldn't?
I think trusting in yourself is the biggest thing for me. I think trusting your body. Again, with my second one, I'm just like, if I was to go for a third, depending on my cysts, like I again would go into it and go, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Because again, every pregnancy gives you experiences that that you're going to then trust your body for the next one.
Hmm.
And that's the biggest thing. I'm not going to have an episiotomy again. I don't care what happens. You
Hmm.
will not give me a episiotomy. You know what I mean? You will tell me that you're going to have a student midwife. Like I am going to advocate for myself even more. Again, I felt like I let myself down again, but I'm new to the natural birth. You know what I mean? So C-section, I know what to look out for. Now it's the natural birth. I'm like sitting there thinking all this sort of stuff, but also one thing that it makes me laugh now, but traumatic on the table. The my placenta was stuck inside me for 3 hours because there was other women birthing, but the surgeon that came in, because all the hands trying to get it out. I had multiple, 5 girls. They're like, we can't, and it hurt. It hurt like I was giving birth again. And when the surgeon came in, before she went to go in there, she clicked her fingers and goes, what is that? And she pointed at my vagina because the way they cut it, obviously where I jumped back, I couldn't see what was going on. She was like, what's that? And she got really angry. She's like, what is that? And they were like, oh, and they tried to they fumbled their words. And she was like, I'll fix it. Obviously got the placenta out of me. And she sewed me up. And then she got the two women and she goes, in here now. And I was like, obviously in my head, I'm like, I've got a botched vagina. You know what I mean? Like as a joke, but at the same time, it's really serious because I'm just like, this is my body.
By the sounds of your story, there were so many moments of just not honoring the physiology of that you are the birthing woman.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
should feel as safe as possible, especially in
Mhm.
that phase when you're about to meet your baby, because your body's
Yeah.
on that alert, checking your surroundings, making sure that everything's safe to bring baby boy earthside. And you can remember, you've clocked, there's this going on, there's this, there's this. I didn't know
Yeah.
there was a student midwife. Oh, they've done it wrong. I felt that.
Yeah.
That is just so, like,
It's
I just want to
massive.
say, I'm
Mhm.
so sorry that you've
Oh,
experienced
thank you.
that in the medical system. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter public, private, first time, 10th time giving birth.
Hmm.
It shouldn't be experienced by a birthing woman. So
No.
I just
No.
fully see you in that. It's
Oh, thank
actually
you. I
huge.
appreciate that.
It's
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
Is huge. It's massive because, again, advocating for yourself and your body, and your body is massive. And I think us women should support each other more so as mums, as new mums and stuff like that. Because I think like we're just coming into more supporting now this generation because there has been a lack of like support networks for everyone, especially like if your country or city or anything like that, it can be quite isolating at times when you don't know who to turn to. And it's good to have people like you doing what you're
Thank
doing
you.
and actually seeing people. And I think when I saw you, I was like, this is amazing because not only can people actually hear your birth stories, because again, I always feel that whenever anyone wants to say your birth story, because that was your moment, that was your moment to shine. Doesn't matter if it was traumatic or amazing, it was your moment to tell someone what you've experienced.
Yeah.
And I feel like to me, whenever like people just go, ah, and then they don't listen. And I'm
Mm.
like, well, then what's the point of saying anything? Where there's other mums, sorry, where there's other
Okay.
mums that will love to listen to it. I love listening to mums' birth stories. I always give them the time because it is something for them that they hold special and dear to them, like even if it was traumatic. And I think they need to be heard. Everyone
I
needs to be heard,
agree. And if we go back in time, like all the way back when we did have a village and would sit in a red tent with other women, we would always listen to each other's birth stories and would have
Yeah.
that woman to woman connection. And it has been so lost, but I agree, it's slowly coming back. And it's so important, like you said, whether birth stories are traumatic or not, it's still your story.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And it's just important to speak up. And that's like how I always see it is I'm like, speak up, as even if you think that it's too much, it doesn't matter.
Mm.
It's your body, it's your baby, and you have every right. You're in charge. That's
Yeah,
it. You're in charge.
exactly.
You got to be a boss bitch.
Something you said was how, at the end of the day, a healthy and emotionally supported mum is what truly builds a healthy family.
I think it was my whole experience. So again, with Violet, I was like not. It's not pressure because if you can breastfeed, that's amazing. If you
Hmm.
can't breastfeed, that is still amazing.
Hmm.
Like I think again, society, in my experience, have always been like, if you can't breastfeed, then are you a mum? Or are you actually giving your child everything it needs? And sometimes you could have bursitis, you could have anything happening, you could get infections. And again, it's like they're going back to the C-section. That doesn't mean that you didn't give birth. It makes you just as good as a mum as anyone, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And in my experience, like I managed to breastfeed for about like 6 weeks to like I think about 2 months with Violet. Um and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was actually emotionally exhausted and I was crying. And I came into a point where I'm like, I think I'm depressed and I'm not happy. And I've got no exit. I'm just like, I feel like I need to put her down. I can't have her. And I just felt that. And I'm like, then I felt horrible. I felt the guilt. And I'm like, and I'm watching social media where like, oh, like you watch these little clips and you're like, well, why is she doing so well? And obviously I'm failing, and that's how I always see it. And I feel like I let myself down by watching that and that being the judgment towards myself. Like I still fed my baby. She's come out, she's perfect, and every baby is. So, and I think it's just the pressure of if you don't breastfeed, the baby's not fed properly.
Mm. And
You
it
know what
just
I mean?
really shows the impact of social media right at our fingertips when we're in such a vulnerable time,
Yeah,
especially early postpartum. We're going through
yeah,
matrescence. We're learning who we are as a mother. We're learning who our baby is. Our whole world's been turned upside down. Your partner,
yeah,
like you said, works away as well. So there was that
yeah,
element added for you. Plus, your birth didn't go how you had pictured that it would have. There's so
yeah,
many different things. And I just think social media, if and for listeners, and if you are about to enter postpartum, I think, like you just said, pretty much the best piece of advice is like just try and tune out of that and find
yeah.
communities or places where you actually feel seen.
You got a different journey. It doesn't matter that just because you're breastfeeding and I'm bottle feeding, no one's better.
Yeah.
Our babies are healthy. It doesn't matter. Then we've got society telling us that we're not good enough if we don't do X, Y, and Z. It's just like we are putting the pressure on ourselves by clicking that button and open up social media.
Yeah, I agree.
As
I
long as your
100%
kid
agree.
is happy, fed, you're happy. Like you as a mum, if you're happy, it's going to reflect on your family. If you're unhappy, that will definitely reflect on your kids.
Thank you
You
so
know,
much for coming on the podcast.
that's
I
okay.
loved that conversation, and I feel like we're very aligned in like values just
Yeah,
throughout our conversation of just like pretty much just ending on that, like motherhood is individual for every single person.
that's it.
As
Mhm.
long as the mum is happy, healthy, and thriving, the
That's it.
whole family will
That's
be.
it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'm so glad that you're helping mums as well and advocating for this. So yeah, you're doing amazing. And I can't wait to hear more podcasts and just see everyone else's experience. I'm really
Thank you
excited.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another guest episode on With Love Mama, the podcast. If you would love to share your own conception, birth, or postpartum journey on our podcast, I'd be absolutely honored to hear from you. There's a link below in the show notes, and your story could be medicine for another mother that is listening. Until next time, honor your body, trust in your wisdom, and remember, you were, in fact, made for this. Love you.